maybe to tonight's game in a minute, but did you have I don't know if head coaches have time to watch other games, but that Olympic game last night with the Canadian women, and like the hockey world seemed to be zeroing in on it. Can an NHL head coach do that a bit?
I didn't get to see the full game. I saw bits and pieces of it, and obviously the highlights this morning, and I'm proud Canadian, proud of our women's national team, and what an exciting time for all involved there.
To tonight's game, you know, there's lots that's been going well for your group. If you were to put your finger on what you're most happy with at this point through 3 games that you want to make sure continues, what would it be?
Well, I think the work ethic has been off the charts. We've asked the players to play a demanding style of hockey, and we've had attention to detail and buy-in from everyone. You know, just what's most gratifying as a coach is when you walk in after the game and you see the smiles on these people's faces. They put a lot into those games, and it's nice to see the fellows get rewarded. Hi.
Hi again. Talking about Niemelainen, he brings an element that not a lot of players maybe in today's game bring, and like the playing defense aside, just how valued is that element where he likes to light guys up whenever possible?
Yeah, I think for Marcus, he's someone who brings a dimension. And for most young players that are trying to crack an everyday lineup spot in the National Hockey League, you have to do something very well, or something that at least sets you apart. And I think for Marcus, his dimension is his physicality. It's dimensional physicality. I think other teams take note when he's on the ice. He has a real knack with his timing, so that he's not necessarily running out of position to make the hit. And for a big man, he skates well and closes quickly. So I think he's added something here to our back end.
Is that a character trait that just has to come naturally to a guy? I mean, coaches are always asking their players to finish checks and that sort of thing, and he seems to kind of just relish it.
Yeah, I didn't know much about Marcus Niemelainen when I came down to Bakersfield a year and a half ago. And as I got to know him and watch him operate on a daily basis, how he conducted himself in practice and what he brought to the table and come game time, I grew to really appreciate what he brought on a day-by-day basis. For me, I think the style of game that we want to play suits Marcus's style of play.
Jay, with you and Dave, you played 7 defensemen in Bakersfield fairly regularly. Does Dave run it all and you just run the force? How does that communication work between the two of you, on the in-game transitions, when which guy is going? Because there's not a lot of continuity amongst pairs for the most part when you got 7.
Yeah, the way I would say it is, first of all, it's a coaching staff decision to go 7. So that includes Brian and Glenn, Dustin, and Jeremy as well as Jay and Dave. We come in the morning, we talk about what we think is going to give us the best opportunity to win the game at night. When you're on the bench in those situations, it's atypical. It is not a normal thing to have where you can't just run out pair after pair after pair. And to be able to find the minutes appropriate for everyone is a skill, and that's been honed over time. As you said, we've had the experience of that, and how it works nuts and bolts wise. Dave runs the defense on the bench. If I can pick up who I believe is going to come, I might be able to help him out, but he has a pretty good understanding of what he expects is coming over the boards for the other team, and we just try and, it's our philosophy as a coaching staff here in Edmonton, and we just want the right people on the ice at the right times.
Your 5-on-5 play as a team, the last 11 games, and specifically the last 3, has been much better, kind of reminiscent when you were here in 17. If you win the 5-on-5 battle, you got a better chance to win. Your power play isn't at the level that they want to be, and it's been a few months. I know you don't get to change everything right away. We saw last game you had Kane and Yamamoto out with McDavid and Draisaitl. What do you need to see from the 3 games that you've coached from your power play? What are the small little adjustments to get them back to being one of the more dangerous?
Yeah, I'll go to the start of your question there. I would say that we have had one practice in the last few days where this staff is together. So we had to pick the parts of the game that we wanted to put import on, and that's not one that we have started with. But I actually, in the 3 games that I've watched, I've seen the power play create chances. It scored a big goal for us against the New York Islanders. In San Jose, I thought Reimer made some big saves on that against our power play, and we had some good looks in LA too. So for me, you worry when you're not getting those types of chances. Do we want the conversion rate to be improved over the last 3 games? Sure. But when you see our players generating momentum for our team, we know it's just a matter of time before we start getting the results that we want.
You, when you were an assistant coach, you're in charge of a power play, so you've been in power plays for a long time. How much of it is coaching, and then how much of it is just the skill of the players? Because there's a lot of ad-libbing at times, right? There's a broken play, and then boom, they got to think. So how much can you really coach on a power play compared to the player, just them capitalizing?
Well, I think there's a foundation you lay going back to training camp of the things that you look for, principles that you want to see being put into place. I think there's an accounting for the other team's penalty kill, so relying on some pre-scout information, and through experience you learn where you've had success versus different types of penalty kills. I think Glenn does a heck of a job with the power play. I think he's got a great term that I really, really like, which is sometimes when power plays are really clicking, it's almost like road hockey out there. It's just there's a flow, there's a natural flow to it. And you know, like I said, I think the power play is an asset for our team. And like I said, you worry when you're not getting the chances. But over the 3 games that we've been together, I've been pleased with the amount of chances generated.
Jay, a lot of people would say, gee, Stuart Skinner got a shutout last game and he's back in the minors. How come? Is that just the way things work? I mean, you've got 2 veteran goaltenders and he couldn't stay up here?
Well, not only do we have 2 veteran goaltenders, but I think Mike Smith, over the last couple of games that I've seen him play, has been a real factor in us securing the 4 points in the games that he played in. So that's number 1. Mikko is returning from COVID protocol, as everyone knows, and I believe he was 4-0-1 before he went into that COVID protocol. So for me, you know, those 2 players, or those 2 goaltenders, give us a real good chance to win. For Stuart Skinner, he gave an unbelievable account of himself in that San Jose game, but he's a young man and he has to play games, and so he's in a good spot there at Bakersfield to make sure he's getting the reps that he needs and the starts that he needs. And the best thing is he has got a lot of equity with not only the coaching staff and our organization, but also the players in this dressing room as well.
You mentioned you didn't see all of the Canadian women's game last night. I presume you were watching the Anaheim-Calgary game instead. What'd you see from that game?
Well, I think Anaheim's had a heck of a year. They're a team with a lot of skill up front, some young skill up front. Their goaltenders have posted really good numbers on the year and give them a chance to win. And I think, you know, based on the way their game went last night, we should expect a team that's going to come in laser focused. And we better be ready tonight because it's an important game for both teams.
One last question. Derek Ryan on the wing as opposed to center. What do you see from him on the wing that a normal center, you know, is there something different you're seeing on the wing, or is he just a portable player who can move over?
Yeah, I think he's a real versatile player for our team. I see a high level of hockey intelligence. He's somebody who I feel comfortable with Nuge, because if Nuge ends up being the first forechecker and Derek Ryan ends up down low in the zone, I feel comfortable with him. what I've seen over 3 games is someone that makes a lot of really subtle but very important plays on the ice surface. So happy with where he's at, and he's done a good job for us.
Anything new on Duncan Keith, or anything more specific? Are we?
Nothing more specific. He's progressing. I think every day that goes by, he's feeling a little bit healthier, and he's an important part of our back end, but nothing imminent or in the next day or two.
Okay, I would ask you if Chris Russell's close, and I would ask you if there's any other lineup changes tonight you care to share with us.
And I would tell you that same answer for Chris. He's progressing from where he's at. He's getting closer, but nothing imminent today or tomorrow.
One last question is the John Anderson hire down there your recommendation, Colin Chalk's recommendation, Keith Gretzky's recommendation? Where did this come about?
Not my recommendation. I don't know John, but I know his reputation and his history as a coach in both the American Hockey League, the IHL, and also the National Hockey League. His reputation speaks for itself. I have had not a lot of contact just because it's been a whirlwind over the last few days up in Edmonton with our team here. I did see a few members of the Condors staff that made it down to LA and had a brief chat after the game, but I didn't get into the weeds on that, so sorry I can't help you any further with that, Jim.
Just one question for me, Jay. I'm just curious. You guys are playing so many games. You just, got hired for this position a week ago. How do you balance focusing on what your team needs to do and what your opponents do, or what you need to do, against your opponent? How do you balance those two things?
Well, the first thing that we think a lot about is managing the energy reservoir of our team. And what do I mean by that? On one hand, it's physical, so not skating them unnecessarily, making sure we're getting what we need and nothing we don't need on the ice. But there's also the mental side to that, which is I don't believe in paralyzing a team with too much information. We want our players to play instinctually. We don't want them overcooking it or overthinking it or to be pauses in their game. We want them to play with a natural flow. That said, I would say over the last, since we came up last week, we've put greater emphasis on what we're doing as a team, but we still pay attention to what the other team is bringing, because each team we've played presents different challenges, and at the end of the day, we want to give our players the tools they need to be successful. So if there's little things that the Anaheim Ducks are doing, we will certainly highlight that, and most importantly, try and give them some tools to be successful.
So are you relying on other members of your staff to, I guess, as you get more familiar with, details about each team that you play, are you relying more on other members of your staff perhaps to, help put together a scouting report or something like that?
I would say that we have a very collaborative environment in our coaching room, and everybody has a say. We do a lot of collective work. We go our separate ways, certainly, but when we come together, we discuss everything, and I'm quite comfortable with everybody that we have on staff. I think everybody brings different attributes to the table, and I would be remiss if I didn't tap into that resource. So certainly as a staff, we try and work together.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.